The Adventure Pro podcast is back. If you've enjoyed any of the episodes, please leave a review and subscribe, as this will help others find the podcast. You can do this in your preferred podcast player. And if you're feeling really kind, please share the podcast with friends, family, colleagues, and on your website or social media. Thanks in advance. Let's get to the episode. Welcome to the Adventure Pro podcast. Interviews, stories, and inspiration from amazing people that have made adventure their business. So today's guest on the Adventure Pro podcast is Ben Keane from the Adventure Element. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Tom.
So Ben, before we get started, you've just got back from an overseas trip that I'm extremely jealous of. Please tell me more about it.
Oh, well, I decided that I wanted to get away and escape a little bit of the UK winter. And January is always a really quiet period for the business. So I took myself, well, first of all, I went off to Girona for 5 days to do some gravel riding over there in Spain. And then on Boxing Day, I flew out to Vietnam with the intention of cycling the full length of the country. So I was there for just shy of 4 weeks, and I covered just under 1,000 miles during that time. And I did it all solo as well, which I'd never done before. So it was a brand new experience being by myself for such a long period of time. And I learned an awful lot about myself. And there's a few stories there, but yeah, managed to cycle pretty much the whole length of it. There were a few occasions where I jumped on some public transport. For various, one for health reasons and the other one because the weather was pretty poor, so it didn't, at times it was pretty poor, so it didn't seem to make sense to try and ride through really heavy rain and winds when I could jump forward to better conditions. So explore some of the remoter parts of the country and go to some of the touristy spots as well and see some of the beauty of the country. It's a great trip.
Yeah, it looked like it. I was following on Strava, just looking out the window, just at rain and wind and thinking, but my understanding is, that you didn't have such good weather. So, I wasn't that jealous at times.
No, I mean, thankfully, when it was raining, it was still warm. It wasn't like being in the UK, but when it's raining, you don't want to go outside. So, I had 3 days about the middle of the trip where I basically sat still because there was no point in going out because it was torrential rain. It wouldn't be whilst it'd be warm, it wouldn't be very pleasurable. So I sat still for 3 days, and then my initial intention was actually to go north of Hanoi and right up to the Chinese border and explore all the mountains up there. But by the time I'd got into the north of the country, the weather was really poor up in the mountains. So I cut that short. It just wasn't worth it. I bumped into a lady who had spent 5 weeks up there in the mountains, and she said most days it was like 6-7 degrees, thick fog and raining. So she was like, there was nothing to see. So I decided to cut my losses and have a nice time doing other things instead. Yeah, so I'll go back at some point, hopefully, and finish that off.
Oh, brilliant. And just from a geeky logistical point of view, I'm always interested with point-to-point rides, point-forward cycling. So where did you fly into? Where did you fly out of? And how did you transport your bike to and from the end, from the end point?
So I flew into Ho Chi Minh City in the south.
Yeah.
And the reason I did it that way, with the idea of flying out of Hanoi in the north, so going south to north, and the reason I did it that way is because I wanted to do this section above Hanoi, and I wanted to do that at the end of the trip when I was feeling stronger, because I knew there was a lot of ascent up there. And so I flew in with a cardboard box with my bike and all my kit in a cardboard box, ditched that in Ho Chi Minh City, and I hadn't booked a return flight, so I didn't know my return date. So I did that about 4 or 5 days before I actually flew back from Hanoi. And then I just went around all the bike shops in Hanoi begging for a box, which I thought was actually going to be quite complicated, but I managed to get it sorted in under 24 hours of arriving in Hanoi City. Found a company they boxed up the bike, they packaged it beautifully.
Oh, they did it for you. That's like the golden. Glorious. Oh, amazing.
They charged me £5.60
to
package it and everything.
Wow.
So actually the logistics was so easy, ridiculously easy. So, which was a surprise. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, it can be quite intimidating, I think. And I've done it one-way trips before, and it's constantly playing on your mind. Am I going to be able to get? But you get bike boxes anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
That's if you get bikes, you get bike boxes. So
And Vietnam is ruled by the moped and the bike, right?
yeah,
So they're just there's millions and millions and millions of them everywhere.
yeah,
So of course there's lots of bike shops. So it's actually relatively easy to get a bike box sorted. But yeah, like you say, that was always in the back of my mind. I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get it sorted. So when I arrived in Hanoi, I think I gave myself like 3.5 days there, or maybe even 4 days, thinking, well, it might take me a day or two to get it sorted. But I got it sorted on day one. So then I had this extra time just
yeah,
sitting around in the city, and I'm not very good at sitting still. So I did get a little bit bored. And I was looking forward to getting home at that point as well, because the end of the trip was there and I had all of my logistics sorted, and it meant sitting still, which yeah, I'm not great at doing that. So I was yeah, but as a country, beautiful. And I went to some of the remote parts as well. I really wanted to experience what the country was really like and not just go to these little tourist hotspots.
yeah,
I definitely got the full flavor of the country. I saw every side of it, which was intriguing, really intriguing.
yeah. As you always do on a bike, it's
Yeah,
just magic.
it really was. It really was, because you're moving so much slower
Yeah,
and you're going through these little tiny remote villages, and you've got these opportunities to interact with locals who wouldn't necessarily see a Westerner on a bike anyway. So they're really intrigued, and I had some lovely, really lovely, heartwarming experiences interacting with these locals, where there's the language barrier was dealt with through Google Translate, or a lot of smiling and laughing, and they're a really happy, they're
yeah.
a happy nation as well. So it was
Oh,
lovely, really lovely. Yeah.
fantastic. Oh, well, thanks for that. Thank you very much. It's inspired me. So that's just sort of things that you do in your own time, but you're the founder of the Adventure Element. So sum up in one sentence what the Adventure Element does.
Crikey, one sentence. I'm never
Well,
good
two. I'll
at
give you
sorting
two.
my words, Tom.
Oh, no.
What's the adventure element now? And it's had some. It's changed over the years since I set it up, which was about 12, 13 years ago, something like that. But now we have two kind of core strands of the business that don't really complement each other, bizarrely. So it's like two separate businesses under the same umbrella. So we run Duke of Edinburgh expeditions for young people, and we work with somewhere in the region of 1,500 young people a year, working directly with schools, but also running open expeditions as well. Open expeditions at gold level, but all the other 3 levels for the schools. And then we run large scale challenge events for charities and corporates. And those challenge events are predominantly multi-activity, so adventure triathlon based. So there's a cycling element, they go canoeing and they climb a mountain. And we work with in the region of 2,000 people a year on the events as well. So two very different client bases that don't and they don't kind of complement each other as two strands of a business. So it keeps me very busy. But thankfully, I've got 2 amazing managers now who each manage a separate area of the business to keep it all flowing. So yeah, it's exciting, and it's like I say, it's changed a lot over the years. It's changed a lot.
Yeah. So you've got the 2 members of staff. So Chris, I know, and who's the other?
I've got Alex. So
Alex.
Alex, yeah. So Alex is an ex-teacher, and he's been with us coming on for 3 years now, or yeah, 2 years, 3 years. He lives over in Yorkshire, so
Yeah.
we all work remotely. So he's over in Yorkshire, manages all the D of E provision, and then Chris, who I've known, I mean, he's late 30s now, but I've known Chris since he was 18 years old. He lives down in Bournemouth and manages all of our challenge events. And then we've also got 2 new staff who look after our marketing, and then I've got a bookkeeper who does all of our books. So that's kind of our team.
That's really quite a good solid team you've got. I'm a little bit jealous.
Eternally grateful for what they do, because
Yeah.
for lots of years, and you'll know, Tom, running a small business, you become a jack of all trades, and you're
Yeah.
involved in so many different things. And I don't know if everybody really appreciates, when you're a sole trader, how many different plates you're spinning, trying to run a business. People see you out on the ground or up a mountain on the bike, but actually there's everything else going on in the
Yeah.
background. well to get to that point. And now having a team that take care of a lot of this stuff, I really take my hat off for what they do, because they are able to they've taken kind of my initial vision for the business and my excitement for projects and getting involved in adventure, and they're kind of running with it in their own way and doing an amazing job. I'm really grateful for what they do, and it allowed me, I think, a little bit more freedom in my head and time wise, but also we can now start to explore other things to get involved in, which is a really exciting time for the business, to be honest. It's
Wonderful.
it allows for a bit more growth and diversification, having on board.
Yeah, magical. And how recently has the two new members of staff been?
Oh, they started in January. They started at the start of this year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we've, without sounding really conceited, and I apologize if it comes over that way, but I've never done any marketing. In all the years I've run the adventure element, I haven't really put any finances into marketing at all. So we've grown, I call it organic. And as somebody pointed out the other day, when you do something organically, it just basically means that you haven't got a plan. All right. So I grew the business without a plan, and that's genuine. But I think the industry is in a state of flex and change. And I think if we didn't invest in time and money in marketing in a couple of years' time, I think as a business we might be struggling. So taking Holly and Ronnie on board now, and investing in their experience and knowledge, which is incredible. I mean, their background is absolutely phenomenal, what they've done previously. It's going to be worthwhile, not for 2026, but I think 27 and beyond, we'll start to reap the rewards of having a marketing team, if we want to call it that. I like to call it the marketing department, which sounds very grand. But those two just ticking away. I mean, I had a meeting with them yesterday with they had this list of ideas that we can get involved in the future. And it's just, makes you really excited to know that there's somebody else who's also having the same thought processes as you as a business owner, and they've got this vision for where it could potentially go. It's good.
Yeah. So it's less you want to grow, but more just keep well, I guess protect yourself against future. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there will naturally be some growth in there, and we do have a target of growing the business by a nominal percentage over the next couple of years. But really, what I've always been proud of with the adventure element is the quality of our service. We operate. I think we operate. No, I'm going to put my hand on my heart. We operate at a very high standard. In terms of provision and professionalism and the logistics and the staffing and the kit that we offer. And I'm always keen to maintain that. And I think there's a risk that if you get too big too quickly, you lose focus on what that quality is, because you're looking after the clients and the admin behind the clients and chasing money, and your service can potentially drop. And I'm very conscious of not doing that. I want to keep that service level very high and work with a smaller amount of clients that we can really focus on and look after, and continue that service level.
Yeah. And having worked on a couple of events, your events, I mean, I can see that. I mean, it is absolutely first class. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke. And I'm not surprised that you haven't had to do any marketing, because people talk. And when you've got, you're doing events with what's the sort of the challenge events? What's the numbers that you have on those?
We'll operate 50 is sort of our minimum for an event. And for 2026, for 2026, we'll be 600 will be our maximum this year. But, there are events which operate with thousands, but we're doing multi-activity. So there are so many turning cogs within the event. It's vast. So 600 means that we can keep a tab on everything that's going on and maintain standard and also maintain safety as well. So 600 it's big. And we'll have like 40 odd staff working on that event as well. So there's a lot of moving parts. And thank you if you enjoyed working on the event, Tom. I appreciate that feedback.
It was great. So a lot of people will be listening to this, Ben, listening to you talk about your business where it is now, and thinking, "Wow, that's fantastic." I sort of want to be where Ben is sitting, going on, extended bike rides over the winter months, and having people work for me, etc., etc. But obviously, it's taken you a while. So when did you start the adventure element?
So as the adventure element under that brand, I'm going to say it was about 13 years ago. I had
Brilliant.
a business partner prior to that, and we operated under a different name. We
Yeah.
did that for years. We parted ways. I went ahead with the adventure element. Yeah, about 13 years ago, something like that. And it, yeah, its growth, like I said, its growth has come without a plan, and it's kind of evolved. I've always, in my whole outdoor career, which is over 30 years now, I started when I was 17, so I've always been in this profession, and I've always been involved in lots of different areas of the outdoor industry as well, from guiding and teaching and leading and managing centres and doing overseas expeditions. I've always been really interested in the variety of opportunities within the adventure industry. So when I set up the adventure element initially, I was trying to do everything. I was involved in
Yeah.
so many different things, and that's why it's now changed to specifying or being concentrating on these two areas, because it's very easy to be a busy fool, as somebody once told me, and I definitely was back in those days. But and also my role has changed within the business over the years as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
So now, what does a day in the life of Ben look like? Work day.
I get up and I go for a bike ride for most of the day. No, I don't. I wish I could. At this time of year, I mean, it changes. It's a seasonal business, as the adventure industry is invariably, and we do have our downtime. So between October and kind of March we don't do any delivery during that period at all, and I design it that way on purpose. So we can all have a breather as employees, as staff within the business, we will get a bit of a breather. And it also means that we can put all of the planning and admin and logistics together ready for the operational season. So at the moment, my days are spent like this online, chatting to the staff and
Yeah.
chatting to clients, keeping everything rolling. While Chris at the moment is doing all of the logistics plans for all the events in the season. He's putting everything together now. Alex is doing the same with all the schools, getting all those logistics plans sorted. So there's a lot of admin time. And then when the season starts and we start operating, I still like to keep my hand involved. I still like to be around the operation. Whilst I'm not as hands-on as I used to be doing delivery, I'll still go to the store and I'll help load trucks and unload tents and be in the drying room and all that sort of stuff. And I will go out on site as well. I'll go to the expeditions and I'll either be helping to run it. I might even run a group, and look after a team or a couple of teams as well. So I kind of keep my hand involved in what's happening on the ground, or I'll be on an event as an event director, or I could just be a marshal standing on a roadside. I'm very happy to be involved in any part of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's important where we are as a business and my role within the business. I think it's important that I'm still out there and still involved and in there with the staff. So what happens on a day-to-day basis, it really varies, Tom, really varies.
Yeah.
And I like that. I really like that. It's the way that my brain works. It bounces all over the place and I get distracted by keys and squirrels over here that I'll so to do a bit of admin work and then be on the ground and then be in the store, I really love it. I still thrive on it, really. Still
Yeah. Yeah. So do you miss the actual delivery of the events, as in, like, when I first started working in the outdoor industry, I was working as an ML up in the mountains all the time, wet, soggy all the time, in pair of wellies and all the things. And looking back, I'm really glad that I did that when I did it, but I'm not sure I'd want to be doing that all of the time or as much as I used to do it. And things change, I do a lot of admin, a lot of office work now, sat at home, which is lovely. I work from home.
Mm.
But I do find myself at the end of the year going, maybe I do need a little bit more out in the elements, doing the thing that the whole reason I got into this industry. Why am I not doing more of that? Do you feel the same?
100%, 100%. I don't, like you, and I'm sure like a lot of people in the outdoors, you know, there's an excitement in being out in all of that crap weather and being wrapped up and then going from job to job and traveling around the country and working with lots of different people. That's part of, for some people, you know, that's part of the attraction of working in the outdoors. But I think I definitely got to a point where I struggled to find motivation to be wet and cold and standing in front of clients and putting on this face and looking after everybody.
Yeah.
And I got really tired of it, in honesty. And it's not like poor me, I got all tired of climbing mountains or paddling boats or riding bikes, but I just got tired of doing it and putting on the brave face all the time. But now I guess I'm quite lucky and privileged that I can dip in and out when I want to. So, and then when I do go out and do the delivery, I still get excited about it and working with people. But equally, I'm quite happy to sit behind the scenes and watch it all happen and help it all happen from a different seat, and you know, and empower other people to go out there and do that work. What I really like at the moment, and possibly the same with you, Tom, I follow your Strava and you go out for your nice bike ride and you're doing your thing. When the snow's down in the mountain, you're up in the mountain, is you can go out now and do those adventures for yourself, you know, carve out the time to go out and do it for yourself, and then remember why you did it in the first place. You know, not everybody came into the outdoors to go and lead people and teach people in the outdoors. They got into it because they loved doing it themselves. Just this weekend, for instance, I did a last minute trip up to Scotland, um, to go and do some winter stuff up there. And I'm a winter ML, and I used to run winter courses. COVID kind of put a stop to it, and I didn't go back to running courses again. And also, I did get a little bit tired of just being wet and cold and scrabbling around in the Scottish hills trying to find a patch of snow, which every other team are trying to use as well to do some teaching. So I kind of stopped doing it, and I hadn't really been in the hills for the past 3 or 4 years, in the winter hills. And then going up this weekend and doing 2 fantastic days with a member of staff of ours who's working on his ML, his winter ML. He's got his assessment coming up in early March, and just going out with him and a few others, just having a great time in the hills, coming back after a proper Scottish day, you know, fully exfoliated and exhausted. And, you know, my legs are still sore. I struggled to walk down the stairs on Monday morning because I was so tired. But I came back on driving back on Sunday really glowing and excited inside, because I was able to go and just enjoy being in the hills, having an adventure, and not having to worry about the clients that I'm working with or the experience that I've given them. It was all very selfishly, I guess. It was all my experience in it. I'm looking forward to be able to do more adventures for myself or with friends than having to look after other people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that analogy. You're sitting in a different seat. You're still
Yeah.
in the same team, but you're sitting in a different seat and looking at it from a different perspective.
I
That's a-
think I think we could get, I mean, any industry, you know, I'm sure people get tired of what they do, whether they're working in a factory or working in insurance, they get tired of what they do. And I think for what we do in our industry, it's physically exhausting a lot of the time. And also it's mentally exhausting when you're looking after clients and you're trying to enhance their experience the best you possibly can, whilst looking after their safety as well and all the variables within safety. I think it does end up grinding on you, and not every day is pleasurable, unfortunately.
yeah,
It's not, sometimes I've had some horrific experiences, or challenging experiences, where you come away thinking, what the, why am I still doing this? Because it's, you know, the money's not right, or the amount of pressure I put on myself, or the amount of risk I put myself under is not worth it in the grand scheme of things. And you know, I think that's the same in any industry. People kind of feel that, and I think sometimes we have to remember the reasons why we work in the outdoors in the first place, or the reasons we work in adventure. And quite often it's because you like doing those things, and we don't always have the time or the energy to go and do things for ourselves. And I think, we should try and carve out those opportunities just to remind yourself of the reasons why you did it in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So 17-year-old Ben.
Yeah.
Did you start off in outdoor centres then, Ben? Or was it
I did.
Yeah.
It's always a funny question when people ask how you got into the outdoors. And I think if you asked a cross section of the outdoor industry how they got into the outdoors, most people would have the same story. They weren't very good at school, possibly quite naughty in school, didn't get any academic qualifications, and they found something a bit more vocational. They were inspired by a teacher that got them into, and that's my story really. And it's the same as a lot of other. I wasn't very good at school at all. I came out with no GCSEs. And I left school not knowing what to do, but I had a teacher who taught me how to kayak, and he kind of took me under his wing and taught me how to kayak. So when I left school, I looked for an opportunity where I could use that skill, something that I loved doing at the time. And I ended up in an outdoor centre volunteering for a summer and loved it. Just every part of. And I wasn't really kayaking then either. I was doing a lot of other stuff, on-site activities as a 17-year-old. And then decided that was an industry I really wanted to pursue further. And I then got an opportunity. I ended up in France for nearly 10 years working in outdoor centres over there, and developed it from there to doing winters in ski resorts, which allowed me to travel. I've always had a love for travel, hence this in the background.
I love it. Yeah.
So incorporating the love for the adventure stuff, working with people, which I always still absolutely adore working with people, and then having the travel as well. It kind of brought everything together in a really nice package for me and my personality and kind of what I wanted to do with my life. Yeah.
And was there a pivotal moment where you thought, right, I'm going to start my own thing? Because you mentioned having a business partner before. For me, I'd worked for so many different companies freelancing. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. And it was as simple as that. And I was on a climbing trip in the car on the way up to Skye. And my then business partner and I sat down and said, oh, got to find a name, let's think of a name first. Let's get a website first before we've even figured out what we're doing. There's often very little planning, as you mentioned earlier, but was there a turning point for you?
A trait that I don't like about myself, and I check in with myself a lot, is this possibility I'm arrogant. And is that the right way to word it? Yeah, let's call it that. There's a certain arrogance that when I was working for other people and I was being told to deliver a particular product or package, that I always felt I could do it better than how they had organized it. And that's a complete arrogance. That's just me being overly confident. So I guess from an early stage in my career, I felt like I could potentially do it better than the person I was working for. So when an opportunity came about where I could develop my own thing, like I was working for one of the big tour operators, big adventure operators, Acorn Adventure, which they're a little bit smaller now, but I worked my way up through Acorn to work in their operations department as their recruitment and training manager. And I decided to leave there and to go freelance. And I think that was definitely pivotal. They've given me so much over the years, and I'd come from an assistant instructor to being a chief instructor, to being a river manager, to being a centre manager, to work in head office. So I'd had a really nice progression with them. And when I left, I was recruiting like 350 people a season and looking after 7 activity centres spread across Europe. It's quite a big job. And when I decided to leave and go freelance, that was when I thought, that arrogance, I can now go back to that and go, right, I'm just going to start trying to run my own thing. And started to run canoe coaching courses. That's where it kind of really started. I just wanted to impart the knowledge that I'd picked up over the years into other people at a higher level than just working with young people doing activities or outdoor education. So that's where I kind of thought, there's an opportunity here, and it kind of grew from that. But it took quite a long time between becoming freelance and then setting up the business. There was another, whatever, 10 years or something like that before it really started to take off.
And was that a case of building up a network, or was it a case of just putting your mouth where your metal, as a guest, you know, and just testing you as a self-employed individual as opposed to employed?
Yeah, it was really, I never felt like I was going to work, right? And you hear people say that a lot, you know, I don't work, I've got an amazing job that I don't feel like I'm going to work. And back then, it's changed a bit now, because I definitely go to work because there's so much more pressure and requirement on my time. But back then, I just wanted to be involved in everything. So if an opportunity came up, I would always say yes, and then try and work out how I was going to do it later on. So when somebody would say, how do you fancy learning to run this course, or would you like to co-tutor on this course, or would you like to go abroad and run this expedition, I would just say yes. So by not feeling like I had a job and I had this amazing lifestyle at the time, loads of traveling, lots of different areas of adventure and expedition leading, and also I'm working with some most incredible outdoor professionals. I was very, very lucky, really. I just put my name out there, really, just by doing that. And you call it networking, I guess. But that's where it really started to pay off, because then people were coming to me and saying, I want you to run this expedition. I want you to run this course. Not come and do it with me. We want you specifically. So yeah, that's where it kind of got to.
I think arrogance is the wrong word here, Ben. I think the fact that people were coming to you, the fact that you've never done any marketing up until now for your business, it's testament to that, exactly that. You are able to take something and make it better. And I think it's arrogance on the part of the companies that you're working for to think you couldn't do it any better. You as an individual, I can understand why it would rub some people up the wrong way, but I've been in those situations myself and just thought, if you did this way or tweak things, you could have a better operation.
Yeah. One of my operations director, when I was at Acorn, bearing in mind I was in my early 20s back then, I went to him and I said I wanted to be the centre manager. I wanted to run one of the centres. This is before I'd kind of worked my way up. And at the time, I had hair back then, which I don't
didn't we all?
Very much like you, Tom. And I had hair back then, and I had dreadlocks, and I had piercings, and I was pretty scruffy. And he said, what do you think clients would think about you if I put you as a centre manager in front of head teachers, thinking about your image? And I was like, it's got nothing to do with my image. It's about how I can present myself and what I can offer them. And that was, I guess that's when I say it's because that was my arrogance, to think that just me as Ben Keane could win over somebody, when actually it's about the whole package, and I did take it on board eventually, and my hair all fell out, mine didn't fall out because of age.
It was a sign.
Yeah, it was destined to go. So I think that's where the arrogance, well, I think I was arrogant because I was just trying to be really confident about what I could deliver, not necessarily looking at the periphery things, which are really important as well, images. Yep. And that's something now which, and it comes with experience and maturity, the way that you present yourself as a whole, and the body language that you put the way that you put yourself over to somebody in every single facet is really, really important to how much trust that they will put in you, and how much confidence they've got in your ability. So, and now within the business, that's heavily instilled. You've seen how we run our events. That professionalism goes all the way through the whole business in everything that we do. The branding, the image, the logistics, the staff that we have on the ground, the way that we present ourselves, everything is meticulously looked at. So the arrogance has worked. It's got me to this point.
Yeah. I still need another word for that. I'm not going to settle. I'll think of one and text it you, but
Thank
it's
you.
definitely not arrogance. I don't think. I think one thing that I did notice, you know, having worked with the adventure element, it's a culture. It feels like a culture, and you've got that culture right. And people want to work for you. People want to be there. And we've all been on those jobs where we're like, I cannot wait to finish. But
Yeah.
you just don't get that vibe. You know, you get people staying on hours and hours after the event just because it's good crack, you know,
Yeah.
and it's really nice people, really
Yeah.
good atmosphere. Yeah.
There's it's been a main focus as we've grown, and we've started employing more and more people. Like you know, we've got, I don't know, 300 odd people on our books, and about 80 to 100 of those will work for us regularly. Right, so it's quite a big staff team, and they're all freelance. And I've always been very careful about who I bring into the business, because as Ronnie, who now does our marketing, said to me yesterday in a meeting, she said, always keep in the back of your mind, Ben, that a client will not separate the person from the product. They're both the same thing, right? And what I've tried to do is bring in really good quality staff, like your good self, Tom, like your good self, to come in and be the face, because the staff are our product. You know, we can, you know, I don't know, run a canoeing activity. Canoeing's canoeing, but you put the right person in there and it becomes something very different. It manifests into something very different than what somebody else can deliver. And I think with what we do, especially on the events, really, is because we don't work with athletes. We're not about performance. We're about people getting off the sofa and coming, taking part, and raising incredible amounts of money for charity. We have to have the right people on the ground to help support and nurture those participants in the correct way to get them through the day. And it's a unique skill. So I'm very careful about who I put on the ground. And I still personally interview all of our staff. And if they're not right, then they don't work for us. And I say that in the interviews, that we do everything. We give our staff everything they need to deliver a world-class product. All right, so they've got all the support they need from our operations team. They've got a logistics plan which is minute by minute mapped out where everybody needs to be. We give them all the best equipment, we give them uniform, we give them this culture. If they can't deliver that product after we've given them everything, then they're not the right person for us. Because what we need is, and I'll get into trouble for saying this, but I bang on about it in the business a lot. We are people, all right? So we like working with people, and we like interacting with people. So if a member of staff, after everything that we've given them, if they can't go and be that person who can have empathy and sympathy and support and all of those things that you need for that particular client, they're not the right person for the adventure element. It's a really simple equation in my head. And I've always maintained that with every member of staff, and every time the business changes, it's always the same. It's got to be the right people on the ground. Really have. We never go out to Facebook and ask for staff, for instance, because we've got a staff team that I trust, and you're right, they enjoy working for us. I think they enjoy working for us, and they will put in the extra time. But, and this is after being in the industry for a long time, is we've all done it. We've all put in the extra hours when we're working with clients. You know, it doesn't always go to plan. Let's take a hill day. It's always going to run over a little bit. You know, quite often it'll run over, and you've got to be there for your clients. So what we'll do is, if you put in that extra time, you'll be rewarded for that. So I'm happy to pay extra for the extra hours that you put in, or there'll be an extra whatever, you know, we'll look after you in a particular way to recognize the efforts that the staff put in. And I think that helps to create this really happy culture where people are willing to do that extra little bit, because that's what you do in the outdoors, right? You do that extra bit. It's what's it kind of. And there's a lot of businesses, I think, I've worked for, and I'm sure you have as well, and I'm sure other people listening to this will No, they've worked for businesses who don't recognize it or don't acknowledge it. They just expect you to do those extra bits because it's a lifestyle industry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I get a bit passionate about it because it is a lifestyle industry, but you're still working and you're working for a business. And I pay my mortgage because of the work that the staff do. So I'm going to reward you for putting that effort in.
Yeah. Well said, man. Well said.
Thank you.
I think you're going to be inundated with CVs in the next few weeks.
We're full.
Full. Yeah. Apologies for that. Ben, I'm going to be very respectful of your time. I could sit and chat to you for hours, but I am sure you've got other meetings to go to and other bike rides to go on. So at the end of each of these podcasts, it's a bit of a tradition that I ask 3 final questions. So number 1 is, what piece of advice would you give to yourself 10 years ago?
Don't be a busy fool. Don't be a busy.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier on. So break that down.
And it's a personality trait of mine. I'd like to be involved in everything. You know, somebody offers me something, I'll say yes. And invariably, you end up running around like a blue-ass fly, doing lots of amazing things. But from a business perspective, you know, that was great for my development in adventure and my qualifications, my levels of experience. But from a business point of view, I try to do too many things and not just focus on a core handful. And it was a point where some very good friends of mine run CycleWise bike company in the Lake District here, still very good friends with the directors there. I used to sit with them and ask them questions about running a business. And I used to freelance for them as well at the same time. And I was developing the business and freelancing for them. And they both said to me, give up freelancing, focus on running the business, take that hit, take that risk, and it will serve you. You know, it will allow the business to grow in the way that you want to. While you're still running around doing all this freelance work, you're not able to focus your time. So I think, you know, 10 years ago, I should have listened to them a little bit sooner, I think, and stop all the freelance, start running around and focus on some core products that you can definitely run and make money out of. We're a money-making business at the end of the day, got to make money. And focus on what's really going to bring in the revenue. Yeah.
So how did that change come about? So you decided to focus, but what did that actually look like? Were you phoning potential clients? Was it a marketing exercise, or was it something very different?
It was.
Remember,
two things happened. COVID happened.
Yeah.
Which did us a massive favor, because at that time, the business was just starting to kind of grow. I know it was only 5-6 years ago, but the business was kind of starting to take off, and I was still freelancing as well. But because I couldn't do anything else, I couldn't go and freelance. I just focused on systems within the business. So I installed an online booking system, for instance, so you could book activities online. We don't use it so much anymore because the business has changed. But I was able just to sit down and learn how to use this booking platform and install it into the website. It gave me time to develop the website, which is still live now, with a marketing agency. So we developed that. I also broke my shoulder falling off my bike, training for a race. So I had like 6 weeks with my arm in a sling, and I was able just to sit and do admin work and focus on building the business from the ground up, getting all of those procedures and systems all in place, getting it all written down. And that was a very pivotal point. Those two instances allowed me to look at the business, not just Ben Keane climbing mountains or going to ride bikes, but Ben Keane as a business. And there's a massive difference between freelancing and running a business. And I'm going to go on to a slightly different topic, Tom, but there is a huge difference between running your own activities as a freelancer and running a business. And I've learned the hard way, really learned the hard way. They are two completely different things. And I see so many freelancers who run their own activities and want to be a sole trader or want to run a business, but they're still on the ground running those activities.
Yeah.
Like being a glorified freelancer. And
Yeah.
running a business is a very different set of skills, which I've had to learn quite the hard way, I think. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right then. Question two.
I could talk for a long time, Tom. Sorry.
No, I know. I think it's great. It's refreshing. Well, so question two, what valuable resource can you recommend to help others following a similar path to you?
Valuable resource. Gosh.
Yeah, so it could be a YouTube channel, piece of equipment, a blog, podcast, an app, or anything.
I, two things that really helped me. One of them, I listen to the High Performance podcast, which is great. I mean, they have all sorts of business leaders on there, and also high level athletes and sportsmen, all that sort of stuff. And they drill down into what they interpret high performance to be, and I get a lot from that. And I do on my bike. I listen to it as a podcast, and I can tap away for hours on the bike and get some inspiration at the same time. So that's definitely one worth listening to. And and the other resource I think for business development and business growth, and this comes from Richard Branson, that he surrounded himself with great people. And I think that as a piece of advice or a resource is get the best people around you possibly can. Website is a classic example of this. During COVID, when I was developing our current website, I could have gone to a very cheap backstreet developer and got something pretty cheaply, or I could have created something myself. But I decided to go to a marketing agency to develop the website. And it was expensive, really expensive. I was lucky I got a little bit of funding from Cumbria Chamber of Commerce. But I brought in those professionals, and I sat there with a designer, a developer, somebody who'd write copy or proofread my copy. And like 4 or 5 people got involved in the development of that website, and it was worth every single penny. So as a resource, get really good quality people around you.
Yeah. I've had a flick through before because I absolutely love it. But your website, I'm going to say in the intro to this podcast that everyone should go and have a look at it, because it really is standing out. It is fantastic. And you can tell that it's been done professionally. Absolutely. So money well spent, if you ask me.
Well, we're developing it again. It's going to have another iteration very soon, actually.
Right.
Because the business has changed so much over the years, but the website's kind of stayed stationary, and I've taken bits out and I've added some bits in. So it's having a revamp. I mean, the general style of it and format of it will stay the same, but some of the navigation is going to change because the business has changed. But I still love it. I think it's a great site.
Oh,
and imagery is really important to me.
Yeah.
We'll have professional photographers on our events now, and we get all of this great imagery that we'll just plug out there. It's great. We work in the outdoors. It's the best backdrop ever for photos.
Absolutely.
So I think we should be promoting that. I think
I often say to people when they're first starting out a business, said, like it or not, you are now a media company.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You just have to take the time, spend the money on getting the best media you can. And that's it. If you don't, then you won't grow. And that's it.
Yeah, 100%. And especially in a world now where we're all staring at social media, which is all photo based, you've got to get out there and plug it and be as the best you possibly can. It's the conversation with Holly and Ronnie now. That's the biggest conversation we're having is we work in this amazing environment. We've just got to get that imagery out there and people get inspired by it. And video based content now, we're looking at how we're going to develop that because it's so important. And it takes time and imagination to do it as well.
Yeah. Right. So the third and final question, Ben, what would you like to see change about the adventure industry?
Oh,
how long we got?
Hang on a minute. What would I like to see change? I'd like to see the gap between pay for outdoor instructors and the costs that businesses can put their products out at come more in line. Because I keep an eye on the forums, I keep an eye on the chats, and every week there's somebody asked about pay for freelance staff, and then there's a big long stream of everybody ranting about how much they're being paid for the amount of work that they're doing. And unfortunately, as a business, we're at the mercy of how much we can put our products out for. And at the moment, we're in a really tricky period of flux, I think, because people don't have disposable income like they did a few years ago. So we're really struggling to find the right price points for our clients. And of course, we'd love to charge them more and pay the staff more, but we just can't do it. So that it would be lovely to see that level of understanding between the freelance staff and the businesses get more in line. And for some businesses um, to not to undercut some of the other businesses in terms of what they pay as a day rate, because it does devalue what the freelance staff do when they're getting paid or being offered this, small amounts of money, for the amount of effort and time and risk and everything that they go into delivering those products. But the understanding between the businesses and the freelance staff is a little bit blurred, I think, at the moment. Yeah. It'll be lovely to see that this understanding. We'd love to pay everybody 250, 300 quid a day. Of course we would.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And we do, as a business, I think we pay very well in the industry as a day rate, and we pay for travel as well, which helps to alleviate some of the financial burden on freelance staff getting to and from jobs, which a lot of businesses don't do. Well, that's a massive outlay for us. We'll pay up to £100 to get to and from a job, which I know other people don't do that. But we do that on purpose, so we can get the right staff who are comfortable and happy to work for us. So I don't know. There's some balances that need to just level out, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I agree totally.
It's a challenge. Yeah. It's a constant challenge. Pay is such a hot topic.
It is. But as a business owner, I've been there. The race to the bottom race is not a race I want to be in, and I'm not. I'm at a stage now, thankfully, where if I don't want to do a job, then I just don't. I just won't take on the job. And if the numbers don't add up as a business owner, you shouldn't be taking that job. You shouldn't be saying, "Oh no, I'll knock off 10%, 20%." No. That it doesn't work like that, because the people who are going to be impacted the most are the people you employ. Simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we still, as you'll know, on an event, and we've talked a lot about events. Obviously, we do run DFE as well, and we have some amazing staff working on our DFE, and I think possibly DFE staff, they do work because they do overnights as well. They're away from home and they're doing the overnights, and the amount of pay, the amount of money that we can make as a business out of the DFE product is tiny. It really is. It's so challenging, challenging, especially at the moment. So we pay whatever we possibly can to our DFE staff. But on an event, for instance, we'll pay. Some event providers will use volunteer staff to be marshals, for instance. Standing on a roadside pointing for a few hours where cyclists go past, and we don't do that. We pay all of our staff. We don't use volunteers. Now, which might be a foolish business move, because if I use volunteers, the business makes more money. We can still charge the client the same amount, but we've chosen to pay all of our staff for very good reason. And it's so they will turn up, they will wear the uniform, they will do the job that they're asked to do, and they will hang around to do those extra bits. If you work with volunteer staff, quite often they'll just make an excuse and not turn up. There's no responsibility for them to turn up. And it's quite important that that's kind of recognized, industry-wide, that you're coming out to do a job, you should get paid for doing that job, and be rewarded for the efforts that you put in. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. Ben, we're going to close up there. So if people want to find out more about you and what you're up to, where are you going to point people?
Go via the website, go via adventureelement.co.uk. And if you want to drop me an email and ask any questions, then you can do it through there. There's a chat bot, and there's a contact form as well.
Yeah, I saw the chat bot. That is
you like that?
Yeah. It's not you, is it? You're not the chat bot.
I am. 9 times out of 10 it is me.
Oh, really? Is it?
Yeah.
So you haven't got the stock, you haven't got the AI chat botty people in yet.
We're people.
We're people. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's also our Facebook page, there's our Instagram, and there's LinkedIn. We're trying to do more and more on LinkedIn because it's such a powerful tool. So there's the Adventure Element LinkedIn page, and then there's the Ben Keane LinkedIn profile as well. If you wanted to follow us on that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'll put some links in the show notes as well. But,
that'd be great. Thank you, Tom.
And it's been an absolute joy. Thank you very much, and we will definitely speak soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, mate. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to hear the next one, please subscribe. Please share the podcast with your friends and followers. You can also find the Adventure Pro podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook @Adventure Pro Pod.